Hello everyone, and welcome to our cooking class today. This is a new episode of the cooking class that is being presented to you by the health department of the AIIAS church here in the Philippines. And my name to serve you today is Watland Francois. I am a PhD student here in AIIAS, but fortunately today I will be serving you as your cook. And I'm from the beautiful country of Haiti, and I'll be presenting to you two specific dishes from my country. First, I will present to you a side dish that is well appreciated in my country, which is called onion pie. It is derived from French cuisine, but with Asian flavor. And I will be also presenting to you a national dish, which is the pumpkin soup. The pumpkin soup is actually something that comes deep from inside of the Asian soul. And I'm going to tell you why in a few minutes so that you may understand what does this dish represent to us. This is a special soup that we eat every January 1st in my country. And the reason why is this is our Independence Day. On our Independence Day, this is what we eat no matter where we are on earth. In every single Asian household, we will be eating that pumpkin soup. And why? It is because centuries ago, when we were colonized by the French people, that soup was considered to be too precious and too rich for the black slaves to have access to it. They will cook it, but only the white masters would be eating that soup. And on our Independence Day, the very first thing our ancestors did was to eat that soup, just to demonstrate that they are finally free. They can now enjoy that food that was forbidden to them for many centuries. And since that time, January 1st, 1804, every year, this is what we will eat, just to remind us, to remind ourselves that we have been freed and that's the symbol of our independence. So not only it's a dish, it's history, and it makes us emotional talking about it. So let's get cooking. I'll present to you that soup and also that side dish that is onion pie. Let's get cooking, guys. Now I'm starting with the onion pie first because I will have to put it in the oven to be baked for a while. So when it will be in the oven, this is the time I will be cooking the pumpkin soup. Let's now prepare the dough for the onion pie. It is a special dough that is called short pastry. The French name is pâte brisée, but in English it's short pastry. It is prepared basically with all-purpose flour. Now I'm using 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, and I will be mixing it with butter and salt. You will see all the ingredients. They will be listed on your screen. But first thing first, you have to screen the flour. It's important for the texture of the dough. So this is how you start preparing the short pastry. This is the first step. This side dish, it is not necessary to eat it with the soup that I'm preparing. They don't belong together. I mean, they don't go together all the time. Since I was asked to prepare two different recipes, so I'm preparing those two recipes. But it is not to say that this onion pie has to be together with the pumpkin soup. They can stand independently. Now that I'm done with the flour, I will put the butter inside of it. Very important preparing that dough. Your butter has to come out of the fridge, because if it starts to be soft, it will affect the texture of the dough. I will use half of this. You cut it into small pieces and you start to mix. I will also add half a tablespoon of salt. And we start mixing. You have to mix the flour in such a way that it becomes like sandy. This is the time you know it is mixed well, and you can put cold water and 1 egg yolk in the pastry. Now I'm mixing the flour with the butter first. This is the texture we wanted while mixing the flour with the butter. Now we have it like sand. This is the time you add 1 egg yolk. And the recipe I'm preparing is good for 4 mini tart or pie, or 1 big. So it depends on what pan you are using. If you are using mini pan, it will be for 4. If you are using 1 big, it's just 1 big. Now, after mixing the flour with the butter and salt and the egg yolk, this is the time for you to mix it with about half a cup of cold water. But note that I said about, because it depends on the quality of the flour you're using. That's why you have to add the water gradually, just to make sure you don't exceed, because if you put too much water, you will be having a hard time to work the dough. So I will be adding the water gradually up until I get the texture I wanted. For some flour, it may take more than that. For some flour, not that much. So you have to be mindful and keep an eye on it. And I will let you know when the quality is okay. Remember, the water has to be cold enough and the butter has to be fresh from the fridge. So everything in cold temperature. Remember that this episode is being presented in a kitchen of a single student, so know that we will not find professional equipment, so those are just things we are using at home. So I hope you guys understand that. At this point, it's not done yet, it's not ready yet, but you have to be very careful not to just pour water in it, but instead you get your hand wet and you continue to manage up until it's okay. Because if you pour more water, too much water, you will be having problem with the dough. So at this time, you don't pour water, you just get your hand wet and you continue the operation. Okay, at this point I have the feeling that my dough is ready. I mean the texture is the way I want it to be. I will separate it into 4 parts because I know I will be using 4 mini pans. So I will separate it into 4 and let it rest for a while I will be preparing the bechamel sauce or the cream to put inside the pie. At this point, no more water needed. you just continue your operation. Since I already know I will be using 4 mini pan, I separate my dough into 4 parts, and I will let it rest for a while in the fridge to keep it fresh while I will be preparing the bechamel sauce or the cream for the pie. Let's set it aside for a while and then prepare the sauce. Now I will be preparing the bechamel sauce or the cream, as you want to name it. I will be using some butter. I will be using some oil and different type of cheese and onion, because remember it's called onion pie. So the main ingredient for the flavor gonna be the onion. And I have this specific homemade spicy. It is typical of Haiti. It is just a mix of garlic, leeks, and bell pepper. So if you don't have it at home, you can just prepare for the time you will be cooking, or you can skip it because it's just a particular flavor from our country. In any single Asian household you will come, you will find that mix prepared and stored in the fridge for any kind of dish we will be preparing. So we will be using this Asian spicy. So now let us prepare the bechamel sauce. First thing, you have your butter ready to cook the onion with butter. It is just half of the remaining of the butter we had that I'm using now. And a good technique when you're cooking your onion with butter, you add some oil, not much, just to preserve the onion for it not to get burned, just in case. For this one, I cut 2 onions. I think they are medium size, and that's what I will be using for the bechamel sauce. Maybe not all of them. I'll be using 1.5. At this point, you put your mix of garlic and leeks and bell pepper and celery. This is homemade spice. It adds flavor to your meal for sure. Now I'm gonna let my onion cook for a while before proceeding to the next step. Let's say I will leave my onion cook for 3 minutes or so. When I see that it is tender, I will add a little bit of flour, but off the stove. When you are adding the flour, you add it off the stove for it not to get burned. And after that, you will add 2 cups of milk and the cheese. You will see the ingredient list on your screen watching this video. Okay, I have the feeling that my onion is cooked. I will just add a little bit of flour. It is to manage the thickness of my bechamel sauce. It is about half a spoon, but off the stove. When I say I just turn the fire off for the flour not to get burned. And at the time of adding the milk, I will turn it on again. Now that I'm adding the milk, I turn the fire back on and I add my milk to have this the bechamel sauce the way I want it. For now, I just put 1.5 cups of milk because I know already it's gonna be 4 mini pans, so no need of too much bechamel sauce. And you make sure you are on medium heat, and you add your cheese gradually according to your taste. For me, I will be using that Philadelphia cheese, and then that triangle, I think President, it's a French brand. And I will be using also this cream, not all of it, just a little amount. And the rest will be that shredded cheese. For this one, I put just half of the container. And this one, I put the whole thing. I put just 2 times this one from the Philadelphia cheese. So that's fairly enough. And lastly, just a little bit of shredded cheese. See that I put only small amounts in everything, not too much, because we are trying to stay healthy, even though we are cooking those type of dish. We want to consume minimum amount of cheese and milk and all those stuff. Now this is the time for the sauce, for the bechamel sauce to cook and to get thicker and thicker. And you will control the amount of salt and black pepper and red pepper. You decide according to your taste. You decide on how spicy you want it to be, but you add some black pepper and red pepper. Also important, I will be adding this garlic powder. If you don't have garlic powder, you can just use regular garlic, fresh garlic. You just cut it into small pieces and you put. Now we let the magic work. Let the fire do its thing, and we'll wait for our sauce to be the texture we want it to be. Remember, don't put the fire too high, and you keep on giving it some stir so that it does not get burned. You see, as it is being cooked, it is becoming thicker and thicker, and for the time, by the time for the shredded cheese to be fully melted and the sauce, it will be thick enough to use it for the pie. Remember, at this point I haven't added any salt yet, This is the time I will be putting just this amount, and after I test it, if I still need some, I can add, because it depends on the type of cheese you are using. Some of them are salty, so you have to be very watchful on the amount of salt you are adding to your bechamel sauce. So what to do? You test it along the way, which I will be doing in a few moments. I just tested the sauce. I realized I need just some more garlic and some more salt and pepper, which I will be adding. This much of salt. That's the second time I put salt in it. And some more pepper. You guys know that cooking is an art, not an exact science. So you try it along the way, and when you realize you get what you have been looking for, you say, okay, this is it. So now I'm almost certain that the taste I wanted is about to be there. But to be sure, I'll taste it again. I'm satisfied. The sauce is cooked, but not fully ready to be poured into the pie. I will let it cool down just a little bit, and I will add 1 egg yolk in the sauce and some Parmesan cheese. But while it is cooling down, I will be putting the dough into the mini pan to prepare the pies. Okay, now we are back to our dough. As I mentioned earlier, I'll be using those mini pan, 4 of them. So the recipe I'm preparing just for 4 mini pan, and it is very practical if you can have pan with removable bottom. If you don't, it's okay, but this one is very practical, so it will be easier for you to remove the pie when you are done. So if you don't have it, it's totally okay, but today I'm using pan with removable bottom. You make sure you put some flour on your surface and the roll as well, and you start preparing a nice circle shape of dough, just to make it fit the pan. See how easy it is to work with it. It's just because it is the mix of water is just the exact amount. With too much water, it will be difficult. With too little water, it will be hard to work. The dough will be falling apart. So that's why you control the water, and at some point you just get your hand wet, and you continue the operation as I showed you earlier. Now I'm looking for a round shape, just to make it fit the pan. So the dough is of very good quality. See how easy it is to work it. So if it is by chance, today I was very lucky. Since I'm very used of the pan that I'm using, I know now the surface is wide enough. So very important, before you put the dough in the pan, you grease it. You can use butter if you don't have this cooking spray, but if you do, it's very practical. Just make sure you grease your pan. for it not to stick. And you make sure the dough is well adapted to the pan, well fit. Make it fit well, and then you use a knife to remove the excess at the edge. No one says that you have to lose those excess of dough. You can use it in the next bowl you have, and then you continue the operation. So we already have one pan ready. Now we have all our 4 mini tart pan well mounted with the dough. And now I'm back to my bechamel sauce, and I will add 2 last ingredients. As I told you, I will add the egg yolk and some Parmesan cheese. At this point, if you also add, if you have mustard, you can add some. But unfortunately, I don't have in my kitchen for now. I will stick to the egg yolk and Parmesan. Don't you worry about the fact that I add the egg yolk after the bechamel sauce is cooked. Remember that it will go to the oven. That will be the time the egg will melt and mix with the bechamel sauce. Now let's just put the sauce inside the pies and have them baked. Now we have all our pies ready to go to the oven. I'll put them there for about 40 to 50 minutes on 180 Celsius or 350 Fahrenheit, depending on what unit you're using. So this one is Celsius, it's gonna be 180, and I will leave it there for 40 to 50 minutes. But you know it's cooked when you see the bechamel sauce turned into a nice golden color, and you see that the dough is getting very crispy. You know it's ready. Since I'm using a gas stove, no need to preheat. But if you are using electric stove, you have to preheat for a couple of minutes. Okay guys, let us now start cooking our soup, our pumpkin soup, our historical pumpkin soup. Our pies, they are in the oven now we'll be waiting for 40 to 50 minutes for them to be ready, but by this time we are cooking our pumpkin soup. I went ahead first to boil the pumpkins. I'm using 1 kilo of pumpkins. You know, pumpkins, I just cut it and boiled it and blended it. So it is a blend, boiled pumpkin, nothing more. At the time of the boiling, I surely added 2 branches of leeks and 2 garlics, just to add some flavor to the pumpkin. So now the cooking starts. I will surely add some water. So since it is a soup, you will decide on the amount of water you want to add, but you have to preserve the thickness of the liquid. As I told you, you won't see someone from my country cooking without adding that homemade spicy. Now I will be adding this mix of garlic, leeks, and bell pepper and celery, and yeah, and a little bit of oil. In the meantime, I add some oil, not much, just a little amount of oil. And as part of the ingredient to be added into the soup, I prepared tulip, potatoes, carrots, and celery. And I will add the carrots first. When the liquid starts coming to a boil, I will add the carrots first because basically it takes more time to cook. And later on I will add the potatoes and the turmeric and all the rest. And I will also add some vegetables toward the end. Those are cabbage, leeks, and then this pepper, I add some cloves in it. And the techniques, I attach the cloves in the pepper so that when the soup is ready, I will be able to remove everything at once. And we have this specific combination of celery and parsley. I attach them together. I will put them in the soup to be boiled in the soup, but when it's done, you remove it. So it's just for flavor, not to consume it directly. So the recipe I'm preparing now will be good for 4 people. Or 5, depending on how much or how little they eat, but the average is 4. Okay, now I have the feeling that the water is starting to get hot. I go ahead to add my carrots so that the cooking time may not last long, so I start early. I use just 1 carrot. I'll be using 1 carrot, 3 potatoes, and 2 small pieces of turmeric. This is what I'm using today. And at this time, I'll add 2 packs of garlic powder. In my cooking, I use garlic powder a lot because it really enhances the taste of the food. And I also now put my pepper. I will be using 2 red pepper as well. For it to come to a boil quicker, I will cover a little bit and I will come back to add the other ingredients, and our soup will be ready in a few moments. I will also add, I forgot to say, besides the vegetables and the potatoes, and I will also add some pasta because you don't do Asian pumpkin soup without adding pasta. Okay, now that my carrots, they start cooking already, I'm adding the potatoes and the turmeric and the celery that I cut into small pieces. And then they will take the time to cook together. At this point, this is the time for me to check the amount of salt and spicy in my soup. I'm adding some seasoned vinegar and some salt. See, this much, twice for now, and a little bit of black and red pepper. And you don't go too deep into it you taste it first. Remember that I told you in the introduction that this soup is historical for us, Asian people. So just the simple fact of cooking it makes us emotional, because it reminds us of our independence from slavery more than 2 centuries ago, 1804. That thing that our ancestors, they were not allowed to enjoy because it was considered too rich for them, too precious for them. Now, generations after, we can enjoy it boldly. So I'm so happy to share this part of our history and culture with you. Okay, I still need to add some seasoned vinegar and also some salt, and I will also add some butter. In the description, I will send you the complete ingredient list and measurement. Just this amount of butter. Now we are waiting for everything to be almost cooked, and I will add some pasta, both type, macaroni and spaghetti, but not much, just some, and our soup will be ready. I have to specify for you that in some households they will add meat, but for us vegetarians, we don't do it with meat. But if you do consume meat, feel free to add meat into it. I will cover it now and let it come to the cooking point. And almost at the end, I will add the other vegetables and the pasta. But I can add this one now for flavor. At this point, I will be adding my pasta. As I told you, I will be adding 2 types of pasta. I will be adding macaroni and spaghetti, but not too much, about a cup of macaroni. And a few branches of spaghetti. Although it is not always good to break your spaghetti, but in this recipe you have to cut it into at least 2 halves. Okay, that's all. My soup is almost done now. When I have the feeling that the potatoes and carrots are cooked, I will just add the cabbage and kale leaves, and that's all. So now I'm just waiting for the potatoes and carrots and turmeric to be nicely cooked. By this time, for sure, pasta will be cooked as well. And I will just add the cabbage and kale leaves, and our soup will be ready to serve. You see, at this point, the pies, they are almost cooked, but I'm still waiting for them to turn into the nice golden color. Now that my soup is almost ready, I will be adding the other vegetables, the cabbage and the kale leaves. We'll be adding them now. Now we are just waiting for our carrots and potatoes to be nicely cooked, and our soup will be ready. There's nothing more to add. Now it's about 40 minutes and I still want it to be golden on that one, so I'm waiting for it up to 50. Okay guys, it's been about 30 to 35 minutes that our soup has been cooking. Now it's ready. I already removed the celery and parsley that I attached together, along with the green pepper with the cloves, and the carrots and potatoes. They are nicely cooked. Everything is well cooked. Now I can plate my soup and serve it to my guests. Let's see this. This is the soup, fresh from the stove, and say fresh because it is I just took it out of the stove, but it is hot actually. So we'll wait a few minutes before we can taste it and enjoy that historical Asian pumpkin soup. And in a few minutes I will take my onion pies out of the oven as well, so we can enjoy them together. In a few moments I will get back to you with both the pies and the soup. Okay, now my pies, they are nicely cooked. You see the golden color, so I will take them out of the oven and wait for them to cool down a little bit, and I'll cut into them and show you. All right, friends, this is the final products that we have here: the pumpkin soup and our 4 onion pies. They are nicely cooked. We have that golden color, and the soup tastes very well. And I wish you were there to enjoy it with us. But you can try this recipe at home. You can read the ingredients on your screen, and you will follow the steps according to the video, and you will be very happy with the results. And you can thank the health department of AIIAS Church for having this program, because you just travel right from your house all the way to the Caribbean, participating in Asian history, enjoying the Independence Day soup with us, the famous Asian pumpkin soup. Until next time, God bless you all.